I'm a bird, mother. I'm a bird.
The attack in Oblivion Remastered got much worse. I wonder if it's still the same attack that Blizzard specifically is pushing onto Oblivion, or is it like a new one?
That is the total peak player count on Steam that Oblivion Remastered surpassed this weekend. It was also announced by Bethesda that more than 4 million people had played this remaster already. A massive success story that would not have been possible had Bethesda and external developer Virtuous not leaned into the identity of Oblivion, but
Is it the same one or not? I am so confused. I guess we'll see.
by including all of its good and bad features. They brought the improvements in the areas that mattered most, while leaving alone a lot of the iconic jank. Still though, there has been some infighting over a few notable changes, such as the original colorful lighting, as well as male and female character creator options to body type.
By the way, I did add a mod where it says female and male. It's like barely, it took barely any time. You just clicked add, done. It took just a second to do that. I don't know. As for the color thing, did not try it. I actually prefer the toned down colors, and I'm also trying out different optimization mods. Like one of them is it removes that glow from the light sources, which reduces the GPU usage.
The God rays?
Yes.
Okay.
Type 1 and body type 2, which doesn't really make sense in a game in which there is gender-specific dialogue. Now,
yeah, I would say that would be like the only issue I have with that type 1 and type 2. Honestly, I don't give a damn. But no matter you pick type 1, people in the game will refer to you as a female specifically. You pick type 2, they will specifically call you a man. So even just adding that there, those words, was so pointless.
Now, with this being a Bethesda game, many look to the obvious answer to solve these issues: mods. While Nexus Mods was all about endorsing the game's reshade mod to make it look like the Oblivion we all knew and loved, they were very much against making its character creator options to how it used to be. The reasoning simply comes down to politics. Want to romance Judy as a male in Cyberpunk 2077? That's banned. Romance Panam as a female in Cyberpunk 2077? Go for it. The hypocrisy.
That's kind of weird. That is such hypocrisy. What the hell?
And lack of consistency on that one.
My main issue with all of this is a single, like all of these issues that's been happening with Nexus Mods are single player games. Why are you imposing your own political beliefs in a single player game? People should be able to do there whatever the hell they want.
Website has been prevalent for years, and finally they did budge. They changed their policy after intense backlash, with originally them taking down the Oblivion body type selector mod, a website full of graphic adult content mods, and a simple text change not being allowed. It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's really dumb. Literally in the first 10 seconds of the game, you get called by your gender in a jail cell. The first few seconds of me opening the game on stream in the jail cell, that stupid elf went, "Hey kitty, 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 what that tongue do?" So you cannot be a snowflake like this about a game like Oblivion.
Stupid. And yes, while it isn't the end of the world, it's also a case of if it's not that big of a deal, then why ban it? Fortunately, they changed course. The mod is now one of the top downloaded ones on the website right now, and my god, there's been a meltdown from games media over this. Multiple articles going after the decision, declaring it as being insulting for changing a...
I do find it funny that Nexus finally gave up and left the mod there. They just gave up. I don't think that's what he said. I'm paraphrasing.
Needed inclusive design choice. We even saw PC Gamer running with a hit piece stating, justifying the change as restoring the game to its original state doesn't hold water either. Since we're on the topic, you're literally playing a remaster, literally a changed, updated version of an old game, and the move to body types is minute next to the revamped graphics, leveling system, voice acting. So minute that they're having a meltdown and advocating for the banning of a mod. PC Gamer continues stating, the bottom line is that Nexus Mod seemingly recognizes that this body type selector mod exists as a dog dog whistle for phobes, but doesn't seem to care as long as the mod author doesn't explicitly say so. That is the perspective of one of the biggest remaining gaming websites, but this isn't actually what I wanted to talk about today. Because while I take issues with that article and its framing, I have a much bigger issue with an article also from PC Gamer that goes after Bethesda and the Oblivion Remaster for including its iconic soundtrack. They specifically make the argument that this remaster is tainted.
This is so dumb.
Because of composer Jeremy Soule. It's a frankly disgusting, vile piece that needs to be deconstructed and shamed. Now, PC Gamer, they write, by choosing not to replace Oblivion Remastered soundtrack, Bethesda made the allegations against composer Jeremy Soule everyone else's problem. Oblivion soundtrack is a core part of its identity, but it's also tainted by association. Thank you, PC Gamer, in an article that has the comments off for obvious reasons.
I think by this point, PC Gamer got their butt hair sizzled so much by the average gamer that they don't want to see comments. I actually did not know that there were allegations done. I think I'm gonna need to look into it more because somehow it didn't even cross my timeline at any point. So I don't know what happened. PC Gamer has all the comments off. They dropped discussed like 2 months ago and no longer have comment section. What was 2 months ago? Avowed?
Now, the problem I have with this piece just to begin with is the framing of the fact that allegations that were made 60 years ago that were never tried in a court of law, they're being treated as if this individual was found guilty. Never happened. No investigations at all were ever conducted, and this was coming around the time of the Me Too movement. We've already seen other incidents like this happening in the video game industry, in which another core developer that worked on Bethesda.
And there was so much happening during the Me Too movement, during the gaming one specifically, especially in the area of Destiny 2 as well. There were so many allegations done against Destiny 2 content creators. Typical journalists, yeah. We are not fans of gaming journalists here. I kind of abandoned hope on things changing. By this point, to me, it seems things are not gonna change until those people are removed from that specific field.
Chris Avellone, he had some really heinous allegations that were made against him. He ended up going full scorched earth against them, and there was already mountains of evidence that disproved the allegation, and he won. His accusers settled with him, they retracted their allegations, Avellone was awarded a 7-figure payout, his accusers even endorsed his return to the games industry. Avellone, with credits linked to Fallout New Vegas, KOTOR 2, Prey, Alpha Protocol, Fallout 2, and among many other games, has since been ghosted by this industry. He hasn't gotten another job in the video game industry, and that's going to be the same case with Jeremy Soule. But this is what PC Gamer writes. They say, they bring up rightfully, that it's been at least 15 years since I last touched Oblivion, but a few seconds of the triumphant theme Reign of the Septums brings me right back to the menu screen. I saw so many times on my Xbox 360, the gentler, almost aching Harvest Dawn conjures the quieter moments I spent wandering around the Imperial City picking locks and pockets. Those are good memories. But today, I have a different association with Oblivion's music, the 2019 allegations of, well, some serious misconduct that were made against composer Jeremy Soule, who wrote the music for Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and many other games, including KOTOR, Guild Wars. He just has an impressive resume. The problem I have with these allegations that were made in 2019, they were never tried in a court of law.
So basically, they're just using the Oblivion Remastered dropping to slander him some more. That's what I'm getting from all of this. They're not helping anyone with that. They're not helping the gaming industry. They're not helping people who actually go through heinous things. They're just causing more harm than anything.
There was never any sort of investigation. It was just he said, she said. There was never any evidence produced. And one of the there was 2 accusations in total. One was an actual forcible act that was levied against Soule. That one is one we'll talk about in a second. The other was an individual who admitted that they were flirting with Soule, and things ended up leaning inappropriately. They tried to stop things, and Soule ended up sending a video, supposedly, that was very inappropriate. And that's that. We never heard anything else from the situation. Again, no investigation, no nothing. But we did get statements from Soule. Soule came out and said that he was disgusted by these accusations and pretty much denied all wrongdoing. And then he just went completely dark. He just...
So the only public allegation that was against him, that the accuser flirted, the composer reciprocated, the accuser later on got tired of it, wanted to cut it off, and the composer, he sent probably like a naughty video.
Has dropped off the face of the planet. As I said before, there were 2 claims made against Soul. One was more so for inappropriate behavior and a certain type of message that was unwanted. The other was in regards to actual unwanted contact, if you...
I'm gonna be honest, there's so much inappropriate conduct happening from women towards men in the gaming industry, but hey, let's not talk about that, right? There's like actual inappropriate misconduct happening towards men too. It usually are like the same people who run with like false allegations who would say that.
Catch my drift. This goes back to around 2008 when that specific incident allegedly happened while working at a smaller studio. The accuser claims they were friends and they stated that's all they wanted and told that to Soul. But they hung out and eventually Soul kept trying to push their friendship into something more. Supposedly the accuser felt that they had to go along with it in fear of losing their job and they were afraid of rejecting him, and then the incident happened, which Soul fully denies, along with the other accusation that he fully denies. YouTuber Azura did a full deep dive into all of Soul's past, including everything that happened with these situations and everything beforehand. I highly recommend checking it out if this is all new news to you. Now, what I
will 100% check out the video. I feel like I need some more information because from what I'm hearing right now, and again, the focus of this video is not like those allegations here, but what's happening with Oblivion Remastered. Right now, to me, it sounds like people are just trying to use anything to push down the remaster.
Trying to really say here is that these are accusations. There is nothing, I don't know what happened. I don't know if Soul's guilty or not. I just know that there's no investigation, and I'm just very much against ruining a person's life based on this stuff, especially when it's not tried in a court of law. And I understand all this stuff, these accusations.
I remember when I was managing an esports org in NA specifically. It was during like a lot of Me Too happening in the gaming industry. So there was this content creator who was married to a pretty big content creator, but she would do content on her own. She would stream. She would constantly hang out with the esports players from our org. And apparently that esports player and the wife, who was trying to be a Twitch streamer, they started, you know, like a fling, like an online fling. Which, first of all, it's weird because the dude was like 20, 21, and she already had 2 kids. So it was already weird. But apparently he broke it off with her, and the husband found out that she was having like this internet fling. And the next thing I know, I was being thrown in a situation where I had to figure out what exactly is happening because she came with accusations that he was blackmailing her into sexual acts, that she told him multiple times to leave her alone. I even asked like the screenshots, like evidence, like I'm not gonna accuse our esports player of something without actually freaking seeing evidence. And I did get my evidence, and it looked like it was just, he dumped her. She got mad about it. Her husband found out, so she tried to cover it up with saying that he was brushing her and spin it off as a Me Too. It was appalling. Not surprised some girls tried to do that to me, and I thought they were my friends. Ends up the girl that they were trying to use as an excuse to attack me vehemently defended me. I don't know. And then you guys wonder why we don't collab.
Also go back like 11 or 12 years, and I just have a very hard time thinking about ruining somebody's life off of all of this. And ultimately that is what has happened, because Soul has not worked with Bethesda since then. He already kind of had a rocky relationship. It seems like something may have happened around 2016, 2017, but we can all presume that he's not going to be working on the Elder Scrolls 6, especially because of everything that happened here. And he has dropped off the face of the earth. He took all of his websites and everything off, and then one of the accusers used this against him, him, saying that if he was, you know, actually innocent, he wouldn't be doing this. It's striking, they pretty much said at the time, and I just find that completely absurd, because I think the counter is the man was extremely disappointed and knew it was over for him. And look, maybe he did all this stuff. I just don't know. And I just hate the fact that you have this PC Gamer article.
Some of you might have an issue with me saying this, but I really don't want to listen to gossip up until there's concrete proof of an allegation. Up until then, it's just he said, she said. And I don't want to fall down the rabbit hole picking sides up until there's proof.
Article in which they still have articles up for all the accusations that were made against Chris Avellone, and people still use that against him to this day. That's why I just find this framing, going after the Oblivion Remaster over something that was never confirmed, we don't know, there was no investigation, I just find it absolutely so fucking disgusting that PC Gamer thought it was appropriate to do this, and they knew there was going to be backlash, and I almost feel like that was the point of this article. But
the point of the article was to rage bait and clickbait for some ad revenue. Okay.
But it does continue. It says, before Bethesda announced Oblivion Remastered, there was speculation over whether the developer would remix or even fully replace Soul's music. I did not see any conversation about that. Maybe there was some, I don't know, but I never saw any articles or anything about that. Or even fully replace Soul's music as a result of the allegations against him, or due to a conflict with Bethesda over Soul being left out of a Skyrim concert in 2016. And that was, I think, the first incident in which things really soured between Bethesda before the misconduct stuff. People have theorized that Bethesda had to have already known about all this stuff that happened 11 or 12 years ago that didn't even happen when he worked at Bethesda, but I don't think so. I think that the relationship turned rocky, and this is actually the specific incident that people bring up, in which he was outraged at the time that there was going to be a Skyrim concert, and yeah, he voiced his displeasure on social media in a bunch of viral posts, and I'm sure Bethesda did not like that. But like you said, their relationship already was rocky, and if there was ever a chance for the Elder Scrolls 6, he was going to be part of that. It's never going to happen. PC Gamer then says, but we now know neither happened. The soundtrack is unchanged just as we remember it, and that's how it should be. It really should. Even if everything ended up being true, that is Oblivion. This is Oblivion. There's so many problematic people in this industry, so many problematic, you know, products that we consume to this day, whether the Nike shirts or the brand name stuff and the child factories in fucking China and Vietnam. I don't want to hear this virtue signaling. Same thing with your iPhones and everything. And I understand people hate those comparisons, but guess what? That is very much the same thing that is happening here with problematic individuals and stuff. It's just easier to ignore because this isn't, like, I guess you could say, entertainment and stuff. The logic here is so dumbfounding in my opinion. Now,
I mean, the best example that comes to my mind is the people who were trying to go after another content creator for calling, like, Lizzo fat. They were just turning a blind eye to what Lizzo was trying to force her backup dancers to do. It's like people just pick and choose. It's like based on what fits their reality and what they want to believe in, and what, like, how much delusional followership they have towards a celebrity.
does mention that Soul denied the allegations in 2019, kind of fucking important, but I guess they don't care about the denial and the fact that no investigations were ever conducted. In the years since, he's almost completely vanished from the internet, scrubbing official sites and social media profiles, and he seemingly hasn't composed a new soundtrack since 2019. And like I said, I don't know if Soul is, you know, innocent in all of this. I also don't know if he's guilty. I just know that he also does have some other stuff in his past in which he's been accused of scamming people through Kickstarter.
This campaign began in 2013, last updated 5 years ago. Ooh. Okay, so he's not a squeaky clean person.
He raised like $100,000 for a project and then completely vanished off of the earth, especially when all these allegations emerged, and a lot of people were upset about that. They were like, where's my money? Where's the product that you promised? And he never delivered that. There was also some other stuff in his past in which he was accused of scamming people. But again, that's very different than the misconduct stuff that happened in 2019. Again,
Wait. Johnny Depp case is a good example of selective memory on the internet. That too. Till this day, I still see a lot of tweets on my timeline being like, oh, you guys should have supported Amber Heard. We all saw the very public live streamed court sessions. We know what happened.
I really don't like the framing that PC Gamer is going here, going after Oblivion Remastered because of, well, what Jeremy Soule may or may not have ever done. But PC Gamer goes on to mention, even before 2019, composer Inan Zur has taken the reins as the primary composer for Bethesda's RPGs, working on the ESO, Fallout 4, and Starfield over the last decade. I also believe Soule never worked on like Fallout 3 and such, so I don't think that was ever relevant or anything, but again, Elder Scrolls 6, that's out of the question at this point. PC Gamer goes on to mention Oblivion wouldn't be the game we remember without Soule's music. I agree, though you could argue the same for the shimmery haze of its original lighting or its charmingly ugly NPCs. It could be two things at once, beautiful and tainted by association with its creator. And then this is where they advocate, based on some of the other stuff that has happened in this industry, that they should have re-recorded or changed the soundtrack.
I don't think they should have. Majority of people, they're not gonna be sitting and reading these gossip tabloids. And yes, I'm referring to PC Gamer and Kotaku as gossip tabloids, equivalent but lesser than TMZ. Majority of people are not gonna look at their trashy stuff there.
A change may have been hard to get used to, but it's hardly would have been unprecedented. Halo 2 Anniversary's re-recorded soundtrack replaced the tracks by Incubus and Breaking Benjamin with new compositions, though they were untouched if you switch from the updated to original graphics, which is extremely relevant. And you can say what you want, but the main themes of Halo 2 are very much still there. You can correct me if you want in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that is still the case.
The tracks might be there, but Halo isn't.
And then they mentioned Until Dawn's remake released just 9 years after the original, and they put an exclamation point, I guess, to make a point, included an entirely new soundtrack. Again, we're talking about Until Dawn versus an iconic game, a classic game like Oblivion. There is a clear fucking difference there. Same thing with bringing up an indie game here by saying indie classic Cave Story has its music remixed and recomposed twice in the last 20 years, and fans are split on their favorite version. Again, if they were to create new music for Oblivion, there would be immediate outrage. There was no reason.
I agree. If they would have touched the original sound and changed it, people would have been pissed. Not like some random people on the internet, but people who actually play the game would be pissed. And that's all that matters. The people who actually buy the copies of these games.
Reason, because that is iconic, that is core to its identity, as they bring up earlier in this fucking article. Now, this is where the virtue signaling goes into overdrive. They say, for me at least, Oblivion Remastered is yet another entry on the list of problematic art I once loved. MO for the Eternal, separate the art from the artist debate alongside the likes of Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I do believe that is the case. Is debate even the right word? I think cop-out might be more appropriate. And this is them going after Bethesda for this decision. They go on to say, as I get older and experience disappointment after disappointment with the actors and writers and filmmakers and musicians I once admired, guess what? Everything you do in life, all the companies, everything you touch is tainted by association with this stupid fucking logic. I think we should just understand that there are horrible people in this world, and I think you just have to move on to ignore it. But also with this situation, it's one of those things that is very...
I don't think you should ignore it. I feel like ignoring is same as compliance. But I think up until there's evidence, it's not compliance. And again, I might get a lot of flack for saying that.
Very much unconfirmed, and you are using accusations and just treating it as fact. And I just find that so absurd, so ridiculous, and so dangerous, especially with the consequences of what we've seen the last couple of years with how accusations can blow up and ruin people's lives. I get these individuals don't care about that point of view, but it very much is a point of view that needs to be mentioned. You can hate me for the perspective, but I am somebody that is very skeptical and also just wants to see actual proof and evidence. But in this situation especially, none of that has ever been produced 6 years later. But PC Gamer, they do continue. They mentioned, again, the disappointment of filmmakers, musicians, all these entertainment people that end up being bad hombres. Continuing to engage with the creations feels more transparently a question of, do I enjoy the thing enough to ignore my moral view of the world for it? And then, yes, they are going to make a Harry Potter J.K. Rowling point, because of course they are.
Of course.
Judging by the enduring popularity of Harry Potter, the answer from many, many people is yes, depressingly often. But of course, the question is rarely...
Why wouldn't they throw in Harry Potter here? What the? How is this an actual news outlet? How is PC Gamer an actual place people go to read their stuff? It's so stupid.
about just one person when it comes...
The reality is, imagine if these words were recited by a content creator. You would have gotten booed off of the platform in like few days. But complaining about the actual technical problems wouldn't let them push their worldview on others. True?
Comes to games or movies, hundreds of people put their love and sweat into them. Yes, I agree. Do their contributions make it okay to enjoy them, or do they just make it easier to convince ourselves we're making a smaller moral compromise? And again, this is just such an insulting article to all the individuals that worked on Oblivion, treating it that one individual, I guess, just ruins the entire experience.
That's a good point. Every single person who worked on Oblivion, let's ruin it all because of one person. That sounds logical, and yes, grateful. But I think music in video games, I think J.K. Rowling.
And again, treating unverified accusations as fact. Very much a problem with this article. Now, it goes on to mention they go after the whole, again, separate the art from the artist. They say that there's another way of looking at this choice as comedian, but I don't know who that is. A lot of people wanted to separate the art from the artist, but I would settle for separating the artist from her money. Again, they're making this about J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter because, of course, they are.
You're talking about Oblivion. Can you at least stay on one point? Right now, it's just coming off as an what if? But what about?
What about this?
It's just so stupid.
Does Soul get royalties from his work?
It's like the same level of someone going like, hey, this is an artist. I like this person's art. You know who else was an artist? Hitler. It's like same level stupidity.
On Oblivion, or from sales of Oblivion Remastered? What about from sales of the soundtrack itself, which Bethesda has bundled with an art book for the $10 deluxe edition upgrade? I wish I knew the answer to those questions, but Bethesda did not respond to our request for comment. More than 100 people were credited with making the original version of Oblivion and more for the remaster. The credits last for 24 minutes. I'm glad we get to experience the passion they had for making an RPG that has some truly great quests in it, as well as some very silly stuff. But the soundtrack Bethesda is now selling as a standalone app in that $10 upgrade that only has one name on it, Jeremy Soule. There's nothing complicated about that choice there. And this is PC Gamer's attack on...
Okay, I'm gonna just say no self-respecting person will even read PC Gamer. This is just coming off as like the most nonsensical, give me something on them ChatGPT moment. It's so stupid.